By the way, guys, I was so wrong. I'm sorry. I feel guilt every single day that I didn't see this coming.
Political commentator Anna Kasparian of the progressive network The Young Turks, who famously a few years ago declared herself politically unaligned and spent the run-up to the 2024 election and most of 2025 gracing right-wing shows, not to challenge but to find common ground with them, the ground right over the bodies of trans people.
Is it bad that I don't want to see a in the women's locker room? Is that bad?
No.
Anna is now having a bit of a come to Jesus moment and apologizing for not seeing all of the fascism coming and not rightfully calling Trump a fascist.
By the way, guys, I was so wrong. I knew Trump was going to be bad. I didn't like, just because, when I hear the word fascist, I think of, fascism is a specific ideology. So when Cenk and I got into that debate about whether or not Trump is fascist leading up to the election.
Notion of a fascist. Because look, if we're just gonna use fascist toward anyone we dislike, all right, then the word doesn't actually mean anything.
Okay, what do you want me to say, Anna? You want me to say wannabe dictator?
Sure, you can say wannabe dictator, but I don't even think he wants to be a dictator.
Of course.
There wasn't evidence to suggest that he has or believes in a fascist ideology. I've seen now multiple videos of innocent people who are they're not obstructing, they're not getting involved, they're doing nothing other than standing kind of like away off to the side and filming ICE as they're, raining terror on people. And the ICE agents walk up to them and literally knock them to the ground. American citizens. I'm sorry, I feel guilt every single day that I didn't see this coming. I'm such an idiot.
Ergo, he is a fascist. Sorry, you forgot to finish your thought there, but otherwise, beautifully said, especially that last part.
I'm such an idiot.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about the current psychological warfare that has been waged against the American people when it comes to the perception of ICE. Okay, we've talked about this before. I talked about this yesterday. There's a series of Democrat Party liberal media hoaxes that are now going viral on the internet that are designed to trick the public into turning against ICE. Because again, this is about the election, right? This is full-blown election interference. It is happening, and people have to be able to recognize when you're being played, okay? Yesterday, we talked about a story involving a Somali woman who claims that she was beat up and called the N-word by ICE, right? And she was kidnapped by ICE. Turns out, look at the video, she wasn't beat up by ICE. She was actually treated very nicely by ICE, especially considering the fact that she spit on an ICE agent, right? It appears that she spit on an ICE agent. Yeah, I think they treated her very nicely considering what she did in that video, okay? But if you listen to her, though, she was getting beat up, right? She was being terrorized. But, of course, the mainstream little media, they never tell the truth, right? They only highlight one side of the story. They always dismiss the government side of the story as a lie. And that, unfortunately, is working on some people, right? Particularly naive liberals, naive people who claim to be critical thinkers, who claim to be above this type of propaganda. But unfortunately, we live in a world where, hey, some people are just too emotional, right? To be able to clearly see through bullshit, right? And the first bullshit story that we got to talk about here, I'm pretty sure you guys have heard about it, is the story that is going viral about ICE targeting a 5-year-old in Minnesota, right? Now, I'm going to go ahead and play a clip of Democrats blowing up this story. And again, when you see Democrats blowing up a story like this, again, that's a good sign that it's probably a hoax or out of context or a lie, or they're not telling the whole story.
So now ICE is using a 5-year-old boy, a 5-year-old boy. They took him and used him to lure his father out. And now they've detained them both. The family doesn't know where they are. This is the worst of the damn worst. This is not humanity in Minnesota, folks. If you can look at this 5-year-old and actually with a straight face still support and be silent in the face of what the Trump administration and Kristi Noem is doing, I just can't even believe this is America. I will not vote for a damn penny to Kristi Noem or ICE in this Congress. This is a time where we should all be outraged. If this doesn't pierce through your humanity. As a Republican member of Congress, you can't speak out about this, then you've got no humanity left.
So I was on my way to get my own children from school, and I heard the commotion and saw all the people. And as I got out of my car and came around the corner, I heard, "What are you doing? Don't take the child." His mom, like, there are people here that can take him. There was another adult who lived in the home that was there saying, "I will take the child. I will take the child." Somebody else was yelling. They saw that I was there and said, "School is here. They can take the child. You don't have to take them." And there was ample opportunity to be able to safely hand that child off to adults. And mom was there. She saw out the window, and dad was yelling, "Please do not open the door. Don't open the door," because of the other picture that I'm sure you've seen, where there's a little boy knocking at the door with an ICE agent looming over him.
And just the second question is, are you accusing ICE of using children as bait?
Yes, I mean, that it's very clear from the pictures, from the videos, from firsthand accounts. I was there. This is what happened.
Local school district here is alleging ICE agents detaining a 5-year-old after preschool on Tuesday. We've also seen multiple American citizens detained by ICE or harassed by ICE in the last 6 weeks. Are you proud of how your administration is conducting this immigration crackdown here in Minnesota right now?
Well, I'm proud of the fact that we're standing behind law enforcement, and I'm proud of the fact that we're enforcing the country's laws. But, you asked a question about this 5-year-old kid. I actually saw this terrible story while I was coming to Minneapolis. We just left Toledo, Ohio this morning for an economic messaging event. And I see this story, and I'm a father of a 5-year-old, actually, a 5-year-old little boy. And I think to myself, oh, my God, this is terrible. How did we arrest a 5-year-old? Well, I do a little bit more follow-up research. And what I find is that the 5-year-old was not arrested, that his dad was an illegal alien. And then when they went to arrest his illegal alien father, the father ran. So the story is that ICE detained a 5-year-old. Well, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to let a 5-year-old child freeze to death? Are they not supposed to arrest an illegal alien in the United States of America? If the argument is that you can't arrest people who have violated our laws because they have children, then every single parent is going to be completely given immunity from ever being the subject of law enforcement. That doesn't make any sense. No one thinks that makes any sense.
Wait. Hold on, JD. Slow down, Vice President Vance. Slow down. You're not supposed to use your brain. You're not supposed to use common sense. You're not supposed to critically think. You're supposed to have an emotional reaction because the liberal media and the Democrats told you that ICE, they were arresting a 5-year-old. They're evil. It's like Gestapo, Nazi Germany, right? That's supposed to be the reaction, right? You're not supposed to critically think and take a step back and say, what actually happened here? DHS is saying that the father fled on foot. The child was there. What was ICE supposed to do? Were they supposed to abandon the child? Or were they supposed to take the child, get the father, and then figure out what they're going to do, which is exactly what they did. But yet liberals are complaining about them doing something that, to me, seems like the right thing to do in a situation like that. Why are they complaining about this? Oh, because they believe that you're stupid. They believe that you're dumb. They want you thinking with your emotions. So let's read ICE's side of the story, right? DHS's side of the story. And then we're going to get into Anna Kasparian's reaction to this, because I think that her reaction is a great example of what I'm talking about when I tell you that there are unfortunately people in this country who are thinking emotionally, who are not critically thinking, who are falling for all the propaganda and the nonsense. And unfortunately, it is a sign that it's working, right? It's working. So let's read here. Columbia Heights Public School Superintendent Zena Stemvink said the boy had been taken by federal agents from a running car while it had been in the family's driveway Tuesday afternoon. The child, who at the time was arriving home from preschool, was later sent with his father to a detention center in Texas. The Associated Press reported, citing school officials and the family's lawyer. Quote, ICE did not target a child. The ICE was abandoned Homeland Security wrote on X on Thursday. On January 20th, ICE conducted a targeted operation to arrest Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias, an illegal alien from Ecuador who was released into the U.S. by the Biden administration. Quote, as agents approached the driver, Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias fled on foot, abandoning his child. For the child's safety, one of our ICE officers remained with the child while the other officers apprehended Conejo Arias, it added. Quote, parents are asked if they want to be removed with their children, or ICE will place the children with a safe person the parent designates. This is consistent with past administration's immigration enforcement, DHS also said. In another post, DHS wrote, quote, our officers made multiple attempts to get the mother inside the house to take custody of her child. Officers even assured her that they would not take her into custody. She refused to accept custody of the child. The father told officers he wanted the child to remain with him. Our officers' primary concern during the entire operation was the safety and welfare of the child. Following the mother's abandonment of the child, officers abided by the father's wishes to keep the child with him. Father and son are together at the immigration processing center. Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. I'm trying to figure out what's the problem here. What did ICE do that was so cruel and so bad? They said, hey, we weren't targeting a 5-year-old. We were targeting the father. Again, as JD laid out, just because you have a kid, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be targeted, because if that was the case, then that would be an obvious loophole that just allows any illegal to stay in the country. Well, I got a kid, right? I got a kid, so you can't deport me, right? Or detain me. Nonsense, right? Nonsensical. That's not going to happen. So they're doing their jobs. The father ran. He abandoned his child, right? And ICE, they responsibly made sure that the kid was not, stranded, okay, with nobody there to watch over him, right? They watched over the child, okay? They attempted to get the mother or the alleged mother to take custody of the child, but she refused to. Now, according to liberals in the media, they were using the child as bait. Even though ICE claims that, hey, no, we told the mother that we're not going to take you. We just want to see if you want the child, right? Because I guess apparently initially, maybe it took some time for them to actually get the father, or for the father to express that he wanted his son to come with him or whatever, okay? Not entirely sure, but regardless, as you can see, there was an attempt to deliver the child to family members, right? There was an actual attempt to do that, right? I mean, we have a picture of that. But again, liberals say, they were using the child as bait. No, they were dropping off the 5-year-old to family members, right? Or alleged family members. They refused them. The father took him. So guess what? We kept the family together, right? We didn't enforce family separation. What did you want ICE to do? To leave the child at the doorstep? To leave the child with some random white liberals who were passing by, right? Claiming that we're school officials, we can take the child. No, that's not what you do in a situation like that. But again, let them tell the story. ICE was being so cruel. They were targeting a child, and they tried to use the child as bait to arrest everybody in the house. Again, the propaganda never stops working, which is why I can't stop working, right? So that being said, let's get into Anna Kasparian's reaction to this, because this is the most disappointing part about all of this. This is the most frustrating part, is that you have people who are actually falling for this nonsense. And this is a great example.
Imagine that ICE will come banging on your door and shout, where are the brown? Walls wants you to imagine that ICE will come banging on your door and shout, where are the brown people? And you'll shake in fear, hoping they don't discover the Mexicans hiding in your attic. And of course, if you aren't, it's pretty hard to imagine this scenario because it's so fake. He says they're pulling over and kidnapping people indiscriminately, which has also never happened, not once. He says ICE is demanding to see the papers of U.S. citizens, which in addition to being false, doesn't make sense.
Now, some brown shirts who operate as media commentators to disguise the fact that they're brown shirts, people like Matt Walsh, are lying to you. That's the whole point of what they do, because it turns out that everything that he just claimed is fake, that isn't happening, has been happening. And in fact, we have some evidence to provide to show that it's been happening at the hands of ICE, of course, whose agents get 47 days of training. Trump cut it down from 6 months to 47 days because he thought it would be cute to do 47 days because he's the 47th president.
It's so cute.
So you have untrained, agents out there terrorizing people. We all see the videos, we see the stories, and Matt Walsh says, just ignore your lying eyes. It's not happening.
Yeah. So again, this is what I'm talking about. A perfect example of just falling for the bullshit, right? She's sitting here talking about the whole, 47 days of training thing. Oh, ICE agents are untrained. How do you know they're untrained? Just because their training days have been shortened, that doesn't mean they're untrained. They try to run that same narrative against the ICE officer who defended himself against the liberal domestic terrorist. Well, he's untrained. Turns out, not only is he a veteran, but he's been a part of ICE for, I think, over a decade, right? So he was not untrained. Also, on top of that, shorter training periods doesn't mean that they're untrained. Maybe, just maybe, they're more efficient with their training, right? Maybe, just maybe, they're not wasting time on BS and they've shortened the process because they've been able to properly train these ICE agents in a much shorter period of time, right? So shorter training period does not mean untrained. These ICE officers are not untrained. But again, they're running for with every liberal talking point in the book. She believes it. Oh, they're untrained. Where's your evidence they're untrained? Do you even have any idea whatsoever what they go through, what type of training they go through, right? To even say or to claim that they're untrained. But again, my point here is that she's falling for every Democrat, every liberal talking point in the book, right? She's falling for every single one of it. It's really sad and pathetic, to be honest with you.
Happening, Jake.
Yeah, a mom of 3 didn't just get murdered in front of your eyes. No, they gave her roses.
A mom of 3 was murdered. It wasn't self-defense, right? The officer did not have a legally justifiable reason to believe that his life was in danger, right? As this woman was essentially speeding off as he was in front of the vehicle, potentially putting his life at risk. Had he not attempted to move out the way, in which he still got hit, he probably would have been dead. Oh, he murdered her. Ah, man, what can you do?
And they're not masked, and they have badges. But none of that is true. Do they arrest U.S. citizens? All right, Anna, give them the story and the real facts so you can find out what a liar Matt Walsh is.
Now, a lot of the examples have been coming out of Minnesota for obvious reasons. The Trump administration has focused most of its attention on Minnesota, although I want to be clear, these types of incidents are happening in many blue cities, liberal cities across the country. So
yeah, because they're sanctuary cities, right? Because they don't cooperate with federal law enforcement. You don't see this in big cities and red states like Florida and Texas because they cooperate. When the local governments and the federal governments are cooperating, you don't get violence and chaos. It's really that simple.
Minnesota, there were 4 children from a single school district who were picked up by ICE just this month, and that includes a 5-year-old boy by the name of Liam Ramos. So let's watch a video that explains the details on that.
A local school district who's sounding alarms, they say, about 4 of their students taken into ICE custody, including a 5-year-old boy who they say was detained with his father in the family's driveway. The district alleges that another adult in the home begged agents to leave the child with them, but that the agents refused. NBC News reached out to DHS about this overnight for comment. They didn't respond to us, but the agency did tell the Washington Post that their policy is to ask parents if they want to be removed with their children or be placed with a person designated by the parent.
Now, it is true that parents can request to be detained with their child, but DHS has yet to explain why they didn't allow the 5-year-old to stay with the relatives in the home who.
Well, because they didn't come to the door, that's why. Did you read the story? They didn't come to the door. You can't just leave a child outside of a door and then leave. They're not gonna do that. Did you read the story?
And this is a horrific smear that we're seeing the mainstream media and politicians on the left, including Kamala Harris, take and run with. The facts are actually that this little boy was abandoned by his own father. His own father was being approached by ICE agents when he ran and abandoned the child. Our law enforcement, in these frigid temperatures, stayed with the child, tried to bring him into custody with the mother, who actually would not take the child into custody, which is so sad, so horrific. Our law enforcement officers actually were taking care of the child, brought him to McDonald's, were playing his favorite music to really calm him down. This is Asmark. There's major riots forming around our law enforcement officers. That is horrendous that the child is having to face this, but our law enforcement officers were taking care of him, and he's now reunited with his father in a federal processing facility.
If you read the story, you will understand that DHS claims that they went to the door to ask the relatives that were there to take in the kid.
Begged for him to stay. When Liam's middle school aged brother returned home about 20 minutes later, he found that his younger brother and father had both been taken away. The family's lawyer says that they are not US citizens, but, and this is an important but, have been following the legal process perfectly, from presenting themselves at the border to applying for asylum to waiting for the process to go through. But the Trump administration doesn't respect the legal means of entering the country either. So that's the reason why there have been stories of ICE agents literally snatching people up as they appear for their court hearings.
No. ICE agents are snatching them up after their court hearings, okay? After their court hearings, when they're told, hey, you gotta leave, you can't stay, right? That you are deportable, that's when they get them. Furthermore, she cites the lawyer's side of the story as if the lawyer is gonna come out here and give us the actual truth, right? Like, what is the lawyer supposed to say outside of, yeah, they were doing everything right and they got snatched up anyways? It's the lawyer, right? like, do you expect the lawyer to come out here and say, well, they actually weren't going to their immigration proceedings and, they weren't doing things the right way. So therefore, I guess it's cool for them to get, detained. Of course, he's not going to say that. But instead of accurately presenting both sides of the story, clearly, Anna has decided who she believes and who she doesn't believe, right? Now, again, where is the video footage? Where's all this evidence that ICE agents try to use this child as bait? Where's the evidence that the parents were screaming for the child to stay? Leave the child. If they didn't come to the door, then what are they supposed to do? Leave the child outside the door? Oh, well, just leave him outside the door. Now, again, this is a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing, right? Had they left the child there, they would have accused ICE of abandoning the child. Well, ICE abandoned the child in the cold, right? That's what the narrative would have been. Because they took the child due to the fact that nobody would come to the door to get custody of the child. And the father said, okay, well, I'm going to take the child with me, right? Now it's, ICE detained a 5-year-old. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. Either way, it doesn't matter what ICE does. They're going to say it was a cruel decision, that ICE did something wrong, even though they did absolutely nothing wrong in this situation. Nothing. The child is with his father. I'm trying to figure out, why is that so bad? What's terrible about that? What am I supposed to cry about? I think it would have been worse had they left the child out there in the cold. Well, maybe they'll come get him, maybe they won't, right?
So they're following the law by going to court. And as they show up, they get arrested.
No, they're getting arrested after their hearing, and they're told that, yes, you're deportable, you can't stay. That's when they get arrested. But for whatever reason, this is a hard concept for people, liberals, to grasp, which is that, hey, if you show up to court and a judge tells you that you're deportable, then you're going to get deported, right? ICE is not going to allow you to go back home, right? They're going to deport you on the spot. But they don't want that, right? They want the illegals to be able to get away, right? That's what they really want. So, I don't know what's going on with Anna Kasparian, to be honest with you. How do you fall for this? Seriously, how do you fall for this propaganda? This is insane.
So you know what that does? You know that's what that would tell me if I were here, not illegally because I'm claiming asylum or whatever, I have my day in court. That would communicate to me, whatever you do not show up to your court date. So great job, ICE. But on top of that, 2 17-year-olds from the district were also taken by ICE. One of those students were on their way to school and was removed from their car earlier Tuesday and taken by armed and masked agents, believed to be ICE agents, according to the Columbia Heights Public School news release. No parents were present. There was a 10-year-old girl who was also detained with her mother. According to the district, during the arrest, the child called her father to tell him the ICE agents were bringing her to school. The father immediately came to the school to find that both his daughter and wife had been taken. But ICE's abuses, I want to be clear, go well beyond one district.
Well, were they in the country illegally or no? That's the question, right? Are they in the country illegally or no? You can tell me these sad sob stories, right? But all I want to know, are they in the country illegally or no? Don't tell me about this 17-year-old child who's on the way to school and the wife and the daughter got detained. I don't want to hear that. All I want to hear, were they in the country illegally, yes or no? Now, if you think that going to school or being a parent is a reason why they shouldn't be deported, then just say that. Just say, hey, I just don't think that people who are here who have kids and the kids are going to school, I just don't think they should be deported. Go ahead and tell us that you think there should be a giant loophole in the law that basically incentivizes illegals to come to this country and to have children and to basically immerse themselves within our social safety nets. And that protects them from us being able to enforce the law. Just go ahead and say that that's what you want. And that's what you believe. Don't gaslight me with these sad sob stories with no context, no real details outside of the details that they want you to hear, right? The saddest parts about it, right? Give me the real details. Nah, we're not going to do that. We want you to cry. And it's just so funny to me because Anna is currently being roasted, as you guys saw at the beginning of this video, by leftists for once again doing a pivot, right? Now she's basically saying that, well, see, I was wrong about Trump not being a fascist, right? I thought he wasn't a fascist, but now I'm convinced that he's a fascist because I don't like the mass deportations. ICE has convinced me that Trump is a fascist, right? Enforcing the law apparently is fascism, right? And it's so funny because it's like, well, yeah, in situations like this, when you clearly are not critically thinking, you're allowing your emotions to get in the way of understanding that you're being played, right? That there's a psychological operation that the media and the Democrats are both in on to sway public opinion of ICE. When you don't take a step back and say, hey, you know what, let me actually think about this. Let me actually figure out what's actually happening. Yeah, this is what you get. You get the whole back and forth stuff, right? Now she's convinced Trump is a fascist. And I honestly, I think she deserves to be roasted by the left, right? Her own side. To be honest with you at this point, I'm not even going to defend her from the left is roasting her for pivoting again. Because you only pivot like this when you fall for any type of nonsense. Because if you're this easily played, then you deserve to be roasted. I'm about to show you guys evidence and proof that Anna Kasparian is being played and she doesn't even know it. Watch this, watch this.
It goes beyond immigrants, okay? Because American citizens have been dealing with the brunt of this out of control ICE situation. So Nasra Ahmed is a good example, 23-year-old US citizen who was arrested in her neighborhood and detained by ICE. Here she is recounting what happened. And again, remember, 23-year-old American citizen.
ICE came, they came out of their cars, they asked me to see my ID. And while they were asking me to see the ID, that man, he called me the N-word. They pushed me hard, they used a lot of violence, my body still hurts, I got a concussion. It's really hard for me to speak because of that concussion. And I was screaming, I was crying, I was so scared. I've never been arrested in my life. I don't have a criminal record. I have a clean record. I was literal cuffs were put on my legs, cuffs on my hands, and I was actually detained with a Native American woman. And God bless her heart, she went through a lot too. She was also detained by ICE, and she was also a U.S. citizen, and like me, and she had gashes on her face. They shattered her window. I'll never forget, like, the fear that we both felt in our hearts that day.
So they're detaining Native Americans who, I don't know if you know that, they're called Native Americans because they're native to this land.
Wow. 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 Now, we went over that story yesterday, guys. And when we went over that story yesterday, we talked about how the actual video showed this woman who claimed that she was beat up by ICE and that all these terrible things happened to her. The actual video showed her spitting on the ICE agents, right? And they didn't even beat her up for it, okay? There's no evidence that she was called the N-word, but even if she was, right, she spit on the ICE agent. So if they did, then hey, you know, I don't really blame them. To be honest with you, I would have said something mean to her too, right? If she tried to spit on me, she clearly got involved in something that was none of her business, and she got caught up. It was all her own fault. But yet, Anna Kasparian listened to that clearly bogus story and ran with it. Oh, ICE, they're arresting U.S. citizens, right? And it's like, did you actually really do the research? Did you actually really look into the story? You mean to tell me you listened to that clearly bogus story from this woman and you believe that? You're using this as your example of ICE arresting U.S. citizens? Every U.S. citizen that's being detained by ICE, 99.9% of them were detained because they were obstructing, because they were blocking the road, because they were trying to stop ICE from doing their jobs. They weren't arrested just because they were brown and they were walking on the streets and ICE thought they were here illegally, despite the fact that they're U.S. citizens and ICE just arrested them on the spot. That's not what happened. There are no examples of that. That is not happening. But what is happening is that, yes, you have U.S. citizens who are finding out when they try to interfere. What else are they supposed to do? What else is ICE supposed to do? Just take it? But that's what they believe. ICE is just supposed to allow the road to be blocked. Well, ICE is they're just randomly pushing down Americans in the street. Yeah, if you're in front of my car and you're trying to stop me from leaving, yeah, I'm going to get out, push you out the way, and keep it moving. What else are they supposed to do? But again, the point of me covering this, guys, is that unfortunately you have naive people who are falling for this stuff. They're falling for it. And that's what you got to understand. This is psychological warfare. I said this at the beginning. When the mass deportations first started, I said from the beginning, they're going to tug at your heartstrings. That you have to be careful and not believe all of these stories that the media is going to put out there, because they're going to use it in order to sway public opinion against ICE. They know that the average person is not going to do real research. They know that the average person is not going to really understand the full context of a situation. They know that the average person is just not that smart, right? Not that informed when it comes to this stuff. And they take advantage of that, and they use that in order to tug at your emotions. And what you just witnessed there was somebody that got, right? That is currently being played, and they don't even realize it. They don't even realize you're being played. The most obvious BS stories, they'll run with it. Oh, see, this woman was a U.S. citizen that got arrested by ICE. When the video showed the woman spitting on ICE agent. And clearly, her story suggests that she got involved in something that had nothing to do with her, which is why she got caught up with him in the first place. Not because they were targeting her due to her skin color, right? Or because she's wearing a hijab. Okay. And again, the saddest part about it is that Anna Kasparian, when she was going through her transformation, it seemed as if she realized the games and the tricks that the media and Democrats play on people, right? She seemed to be aware of that. And apparently when Trump got in office, that part of her brain shut off, right? Apparently that part of her brain doesn't work anymore because she's allowing herself to get played with the most clearly fraudulent stories that we've ever seen. Like, come on now. That Somali story, that story is a fake. Anybody with two brain cells rubbed together knew immediately, okay, this girl is lying. She ain't telling the whole truth about what happened. That 5-year-old kid, anybody with two brain cells rubbed together knows, okay, that ain't really what happened. That, hey, there's more to the story than what these people are telling. But no, Anna Kasperi just believes every word coming out of their mouths, as if these aren't the same people who've already shown you they will lie about any and everything in order to smear Trump, right? But hey, it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.